New Brunswick's east coast borders the Gulf of St. Lawrence near the Atlantic Ocean. While partially protected by Prince Edward Island, this coast can experience strong winds, especially from the northeast. The coast here is further protected by miles of offshore beaches and dunes. These dunes are very important to protecting the more fragile landscapes along this coast and are separated from the land inboard of the dunes by important waterways that escape the tumult outside in the Gulf. The calm water of the protected waterways is home to many species important to this coastline and park. We start by showing one beach called the Kouchibouguac Dunes. Behind the miles-long beach, the dunes have interesting grasses and other ground covers. Marram grass is the most important grass here, as it holds the sand dunes in place. Other important species here include smooth cordgrass and salt meadow cordgrass, both of which stabilize soil. Salt marshes sheltered by these dunes provide habitat and nutrients for plant growth in the marshes, where they eventually form dense layers of peat. The sand dunes here attract the largest colony of common terns in eastern Canada. This Kouchibouguac Park dune is also home to the endangered piping plover, and the plover's breeding colonies are off limits to human traffic. Access to the miles-long dunes is limited by a single pedestrian bridge to a portion of the dunes where the plover's breeding does not take place. The lagoons provide shelter for small fish like stickleback, silverside, mummy-chug, and flounder. Hermit crabs, rock crabs, and lobster also take refuge in these lagoons. The dunes provide effective wind and wave protection to the inland land areas adjoining the lagoons. Strong winds and wave action would be very destructive to the more fragile coast inboard of the lagoons. Climate change is a large threat to this complex ecosystem. Temperature change will eventually bring more species north of this area and will change the habitat for native species. Park manager at Kouchibouguac are now focused on eliminating invasive species and preventing migrating plants and trees from getting a start. Coastal bogs. A short distance inland from the coastal barrier dunes is one of the many important bogs in New Brunswick. It is surprising to many people that peatlands make up 14% of Canada, or 420 million acres. That is the size of Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona combined, or 3 Californias. Think about the difficulty walking across that many bogs, and it is easier to understand why large parts of Canada have never been permanently inhabited. This large pattern bog on the coast of New Brunswick is mostly open. The ground cover is thicker, taller, and more diverse in areas with trees. Palm warblers eat spruce budworms and dragonflies here, actions indicative of good bog health. Looking closer, we see tawny cottongrass, huckleberries, purple pitcher plants, sphagnum peat moss, and cinnamon fern. The sphagnum peat here in the bogs is acidic with no moving water. The ground cover varies over this bog's wide expanse and is thicker and more diverse in the treed areas. This bog is an example of the limited plants that can tolerate and grow in a wet acidic soil, composed mostly of peat. Bogs like this one are wetlands isolated from mineralized soil waters and usually have a raised surface relative to the surrounding landscape. Vegetation is dominated by sphagnum mosses, ericaceous shrubs, and black spruce trees. Ericaceous shrubs are part of the heath family, including rhododendrons like sheep laurel, Labrador tea, rhodora, Lapland rosebay, and leatherleaf. Other ericaceous shrubs include bog rosemary and blueberries. All are suited to acidic soils. A close look at the Kouchibouguac bog shows some of the dense plant leaf tolerating the acidic soils and water found here. Bright white cotton grass is often found in these bogs, alongside the unique pitcher plant, looking like a plant from the dinosaur age. More coastal bogs. Looking down on a bog from 100 feet or more gives one a different impression. There are few, if any, trees on this bog. Water trapped in small ponds becomes more obvious, and bog color changes with bog composition and dominant plant species. These aerials were filmed from a drone flying above a large bog on the edge of Kouchibouguac Park. Walking across this bog was very difficult. A delicate balance is upheld within the surrounding woodland, where younger forests coexist with the rich old-growth species like yellow birch, red spruce, and eastern hemlock. Kouchibouguac's forested landscape is shaped by a complex mosaic of drier upland forest and wet swamp forest. The wet swamp forest type is mainly characterized by black spruce, eastern white cedar, and red maple. The freshwater wetland ecosystems of Kouchibouguac National Park are a great example of interconnected life. From peat moss to the moose, and the delicate palm warbler to the resilient black ash, each species contributes uniquely to this ecosystem. Yet challenges from climate change and invasive species emphasize the ongoing need for large-scale conservation efforts and local efforts to conserve species.